The content of this episode was so much that I had to end up putting it on 2 pages. So just putting that out there. So this is going to be a little bit of a long one, just so y'all know. But anyway, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Titans Rundown. I am your host, Micah McCamey, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the NFL draft. This is my first mock draft of mock draft season, and we're also going to be talking about like one other small thing, but apart from that, this is going to be all draft, baby. One biased pick. You could argue two, but even the second one I still think isn't really that biased. It's just me thinking that this dude's being undervalued. But anywho, let's get started with today's episode. Starting out with, it has been made official that John Bones Fassel, yes, that's his nickname, has been hired as the Tennessee Titans special teams coordinator. That means that Cole Anderson's out and that maybe our special teams will look competent again. No, but seriously, this is probably the best hire that Callie has made in his entire tenure. This is better than the Denard hire, obviously better than the Cole Anderson and Nick Holtz hire. It's arguable that I don't know if I want to go there with the Bill Callahan hire, but I think that it is decently, I think it's a little closer than people are saying. That's all I'm going to say. But again, Bones, one of the best special teams coordinators in the entire game. He just has a real knack for special teams, I guess, which, you don't hear that often, but hey, I mean, I'll take anything at this point. I'll have Craig Aukerman back. That's how badly I want it. Oh, yeah, also, forgot to mention, Craig Aukerman was hired as the special teams coordinator for the Miami Dolphins. Okay, Dolphins fans, this message is directly for you. My thoughts and my prayers go out to you because let me tell you, the Craig Aukerman experience is not fun. It starts out fine because you think, oh, they're not making that big of an impact on the game either way, so it's fine. But then, as the season starts to progress, you're noticing, hey, there are some negative plays going on here until one just horrible, terrible game brings the entire experience down, and you realize, oh, we have a special teams problem, and it might be because of our special teams coordinator. That's just our experience with that, though. I mean, we've had other coaches and players for that go around somewhere else and just be absolutely amazing. I mean, just take a look at, let me think of a random one. Not saying that A.J. Brown wasn't already good with the Tennessee Titans, but I'm just saying A.J. Brown got even better and reached a new level, new heights, with the Philadelphia Eagles. But, oh man, I don't want to talk about that trade anymore because it just makes me sad. So, yeah, great hire by the Titans. Great hire by the Titans, John Fassel. I feel bad for Dolphins fans because now they're going to have to sit through a year or two of Craig Aukerman as their special teams coordinator. And just hold out hope, Dolphins fans, because I could very easily be wrong about this dude, and it could have just been the fact that he didn't have the best special teams, that other things, that I can't think of right now, but there's a chance that maybe he wasn't the complete problem. So anywho, that is the end of that subject. Let's move on to the mock draft. Mock draft Wednesday, I guess, but here we go. Okay, we're going to start out with the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Tennessee Titans select Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. Okay, this is a non-trade down type of draft, okay? I'm not allowed to trade down. I have to stick with every pick, and I have to stay at my position, stay locked in, and pick. We'll do other types of pick drafts where, I trade down in the first, second, fourth even, just stuff like that, okay? So just wanted to let that get out there, all right? So first pick, Cam Ward, quarterback, Miami. Now, my reasoning for this is, here's the thing. I love Abdul Carter. I think that he's going to be a beast at the NFL level, and I think that he is just a freak of nature in general. But I feel uncomfortable with the idea that we could trade down with the Giants and still get him at 3 instead of, or I find it, the fact that the Dolphins, where am I going with this? No, I find it very uncomfortable thinking about how the Giants could trade up and we could get a bunch of their picks and we can still get Abdul Carter with the third pick. That's just something I don't like. So, like, my opinion is if you're going to trade down, go ahead. If you're going to stay at your position, go ahead and draft the dude that's not going to be there in a little bit. So, Cam Ward is my first overall pick. Now we got to look at some of his positives. First off, he's got a very strong arm, can fit it into a lot of places because of how strong his arm is. Now, is he accurate? It's questionable. He's had flashes of being like intensely accurate, but he has also had some really bad throws that show why he is considered more of a developmental quarterback than a right off the bat franchise quarterback. Now, I think he's a little bit more accurate than people give him credit for. I mean, his completion percentage was through the roof in college. I mean, I know that doesn't mean that much for accuracy, but like still, I think that that's something worth noting. And again, I really can't stress this enough. Before people criticize this and be like, he quit on his team in the Pop-Tart Bowl, I think is what it was. Okay, the Pop-Tart Bowl, he was trying to let Miami see what they had in their second string guy. And before you say, like, oh, they had already seen enough, Ward should have just came back in to save the day. Well, this is true. But we have seen quarterbacks that have gone on to be great, have terrible games, awful games, and then go on to have a great game-winning drive, which solidifies their future with the team. Will Levis, even though that, whoa, even though the Miami Dolphins comeback didn't lead to that much for Will Levis in his career, it still is something worth noting that he got an extra year mostly because of that game. Even though he showed flashes throughout the rest of the season, it still should be noted that that is probably the only reason that he ended up winning, or not winning, but ended up staying as Tennessee's QB1 the next year. But anywho, again, strong arm. He's very good at improvising. Like he'll scramble around and he'll get out of the pocket, avoid defenders, try and find somebody, the whole shebang. And to add on to this, he also is very calm in the pocket. I mean, the nonchalant memes are alive and well for a reason. Like, let's not act like this dude sometimes just does not straight up stand in the pocket. Like, I'm just telling you, that's something that you can't really like develop in a quarterback is calmness. We saw that with Will Levis, but again, strong improviser. The reason I have him over Shedeur, I think he's better than Shedeur in my personal opinion. But also the fact that if we look at this front office, it seems like that I think Borgonzi would prefer a Cam Ward after banging the table for Mahomes over a Shedeur, like somebody that is talented, but like doesn't have the sky high potential that somebody like Cam Ward does. I think that if you do draft Cam Ward, though, I think you need to bring in a bridge quarterback. Go get somebody in free agency, whether it's Jameis Winston or it's, I don't know, Carson Wentz. I'll never say that again, but just some type of bridge quarterback that, signs on for like 2-3 years. Let Cam Ward learn under this said player, and yeah, just let him learn and then let him cook. But anywho, his one negative is his decision making. Like, there are some moments where like he'll make a dumb decision that ends up working out because his pure talent just bails him out with it. But there are other times where it's just like that boy looking like Will Levis. Like, there are moments like that where Cam Ward will look like just that bad. And that is a serious problem that we need to end up overcoming. And honestly, that's why I think he needs that year. I think his decision making is the biggest thing that this team needs to develop while he is still learning under said bridge quarterback. And I think that if we decide to start him immediately, I don't know. I think he's going to get eaten alive, and I think his confidence is going to get destroyed. So that's why take the bridge quarterback, let him take all the shots for a year, and then bring in Cam Ward, or at least bring. And if you're going to bring him in the season, bring him in for like the last game, maybe 2 games, just so he can get some game experience. But man, anywho, Cam Ward, best pick by far at this position. I've already spent 10 minutes in this episode, so again, these two are going to be like really in these like first 2, maybe 3 are going to be really in depth and interesting. And then the rest of them are just going to be a bunch of like small, like flash things. That was a really bad snap. But anywho, now in the second round, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting Jack Sawyer, edge, Ohio State. Now, in the mock draft that I did for this specific situation, it didn't have Jack Sawyer available at the time. I'm just going to assume that he isn't going to be picked by the time that the pick gets to us. That's just my opinion. So we're just going to go off of that. All right. So first off, this dude is very strong. I mean, you've seen the dude. Dude's an absolute monster, giant type of dude, and he is also filling one of the biggest needs that the Tennessee Titans have. Edge is by far like one of the biggest things that we need. And, I think that we need to get somebody that will, uh, you know, heck, like just somebody that could just be a project of some sorts, like let them develop over the next couple of years into that dominant pass rusher that we need. I don't need him to be immediately off the bat amazing because, again, next year we're probably not going to be that good. I hate to admit it to y'all. I have this team going like, 6-11 maybe. So, just putting out a warning to Titans fans that actually think that next year is going to be the big blow up year that you're expecting. Okay, I'm not going to let anything in free agency or the draft convince me otherwise. But again, edge is a serious need for this team. I'm sorry, Arden Key as a starter is not going to get the job done. Jalen Harrell is a good rotational player, not a starter. Again, those two are basically the same. It's just one's younger, to me at least, with Jalen Harrell and Arden Key. But again, Jack Sawyer is the best pick. And he's also very versatile with his moves. And he also has like a type of motor that you just really need on your team, especially on your D line. Like he and Big Jeff's motor combined would absolutely destroy the league if he can reach up to his full potential. I mean, that's just my 2 cents though. And again, dude's a winner. Like he won a national championship at Ohio State. That is a big deal. Okay, even whenever you have some of these SEC nerds, and before you say, why are you calling the SEC nerds? You must be a Big Ten fan or something. Don't worry, I am a Tennessee fan, okay? That should be fairly apparent by the fact that I have the Vols rundown. You can go check that out in the description if you want to. I'll talk about it after the episode. But still, again, like they'll tell you like that this stuff that that the national championship wasn't really that hyped up. It wasn't worth the hype, and that it was a meaningless national championship, and about how they didn't feel like either team deserved to be there. I think the reason why there wasn't that much hype and not as much viewership is because of ESPN's monopoly over the sports world, but that's just my opinion. But okay, his biggest weakness though is probably like he has very meh average kind of whatever speed, like getting off of the snap. Like sometimes he'll just be extremely late to that, and that's what you need to focus on most. And even though I like the fact that he's really strong, I feel like that we've got to find a way, as conditioning at least, to keep him strong, but to also get him to where he is still very speedy, right? Like this dude, again, physical specimen. I want to keep that. I really, really want to keep that. But you've also got to find a way to have that combined with his with his speed. And quite frankly, that would be something that would do wonders. And again, overall, Jack Sawyer, this might be recency bias again, but I do genuinely believe that this is the best option that the Tennessee Titans have for the second round at edge if we don't trade down or do anything like that. Okay, so round 4, part 1. With this pick, the Tennessee Titans select Greg Zabel, offensive tackle, North Dakota State University. Okay, I'm not even too sure if that was right. But, okay, so Greg Zabel, let's talk about this. Okay, obviously, there are going to be some really big red flags about him, right? Because he comes from North Dakota State University. It's not like that these guys, obviously, they're awesome. They're amazing in their little FCS area. They dominate every year. But the problem is that with NFL talent, I think that the best players that they've had are prime Carson Wentz and Dylan Radins, maybe. I mean, I know that Christian Watson is supposed to be getting along, but he just hasn't really done much as a Packer, so you got to think about that. So, again, not really like an NFL farm for players. At least that's just my opinion and my take on it. Let me know in the comment section again if there is a very obvious thing that I'm missing and that there is somebody that ended up being a beast out of NDSU, but I don't know. This is just what I've noticed. But anywho, what are his strengths? He's got good footwork. Okay. He's very good about getting off of the line, and he is very solid about adjusting to whatever move his defensive lineman has. Again, take this with a grain of salt because he has played in the FCS. This is why he's going in the 4th round and why he's going to need a little bit more development than the average prospect coming out of college, especially the average senior coming out of college. He's got very strong hands. Again, same thing, but still, whenever somebody tries to come up to him on the D line, he'll just immediately be able to set the standard with his hands and be able to grab him and make sure that he doesn't go anywhere. And that is something that you really look for in an offensive tackle. This, again, I feel like a buffoon right now because this is also the reason that Jaelyn Duncan was so highly regarded. But I don't know, man. I feel like that this guy might be just a little bit different than Jaelyn Duncan was. I mean, I haven't heard any reports about him being intensely lazy, so just take that with a grain of salt. But anywho, the biggest problem with him, though, is that he has shorter arms, which probably means that either he's moving to guard or he's going to have to grow. No, not grow, but going to have to adjust to how he can go into the NFL with short little arms, just, but like T-Rex arms or something. Kind of like how Kenny Pickett, everybody was talking about how whenever he holds a phone, it looks like an iPad. Or again, with Skronsky, he had to move to left guard because he had too short of arms for left tackle in the NFL. So that is a giant concern and is probably the reason why he is not a 3rd round pick and is all the way down in the 4th round. But I think that it's worth taking a risk on. Greg Zabel, I like that. Okay, round 4, part 2. With this pick, the Tennessee Titans select Ja'Cory Brooks, wide receiver out of Louisville. Take this from a Tennessee fan. This guy has some serious stuff that you can work with, okay? He has very solid hands. Whenever you throw the ball his way, it's very hard to envision him dropping it. If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, he had a moment at Alabama. I think it was the time that it was in 2021. He was streaking down the field. There was 5 seconds left. Auburn looks like they're going to win the Iron Bowl. And Bryce Young throws into the end zone, and Ja'Cory Brooks just comes down with this monster of a catch. Absolutely phenomenal hands by our boy. He hits the karate pose. That game goes into overtime. You know what happens after that. One of the best moments. Okay, well, not one of the best moments because, there are a lot of those in the Iron Bowl, but one of the better moments over the past 5 years in Iron Bowl history, or in the past 5 years of the Iron Bowl. So, again, strong hands. That's a perfect example of that. Again, he's very raw, but there is a lot of untapped potential. And with somebody like our wide receivers coach, man, I can't remember his name. Give me 1 second. I think it's Tyke Tolbert, but I'm just going to double check. Okay, just had to double check. There was a little cut in there, so you won't have to see me looking this up. But yes, it is Tyke Tolbert. He's one of the most respected wide receiver coaches in the NFL. Maybe give a raw talent to him. Maybe he develops something and makes something out of this guy. And, I'm a lot more confident in him than I was in the other offensive staff under Vrabel. So there's that. And he also has special teams experience, which will be very big because he'll be able to get onto the field and feel what it's like to be on the field during an NFL game, but he won't have to be a liability at wide receiver or anything. And unlike some people where, we would draft a receiver and play him at gunner for no good reason, just because we felt like it, like this would be an appropriate thing because, again, he has special teams experience, and we could definitely use some of that, to say the least. So Tyke Tolbert, good option. Okay. Next thing, he is... dang it. Okay, so my flag fell down. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go put it back. Okay, so I couldn't really find a way to keep that thing up, so it's just going to stay down for the rest of the episode, and we're just going to have to deal with it. Okay, so, anywho, where was I? Okay, Ja'Cory Brooks. I think I was on his negative. His biggest negative is that he's definitely injury prone, and he's been inconsistent throughout college. Like, he showed flashes of being the next big thing, but he's also had some really meh moments. Like, obviously, his biggest flash of being great was, again, in that Alabama-Auburn game. He makes the big catch at the end. Alabama ends up winning the game, and every Alabama fan sings Kumbaya while the rest of the world is very upset about it. So, still, that does not mean that I don't think he's still worth taking a risk on. Now, injury proneness, obviously, best ability is availability, and you want your player to be available. But if he has enough potential, then you take a risk on somebody that is injury prone, and you try and develop him and see if he can even turn into anything. And if he ends up not turning into anything, that's okay. He's a late fourth round pick. I think you'll be fine without him. But anywho, again, Corey Brooks, I think, is one of the better sleeper wide receivers in this entire draft. Now we move on to round 5. In the 5th round, the Tennessee Titans select Coby Bryant, cornerback, Kansas. Now, this is the weird way to spell Kobe. Cobee. That's a funny way to spell it. And, I just wanted to get that out of the way. Here's the thing. Kansas they didn't play that great, but they ended off the year pretty inspired and strong. So, I think that this would be a fine draft pick. He's got great instincts. He knows whenever the ball is being released or when the ball is going, not even looking at it, just knowing, just feeling it in his body. And he's got a great football IQ, which is, again, something that is very hard to develop once the dude is in the league. And, overall, still, that's something that you really appreciate starting out. And with most of these raw prospects, you've got to develop their knowledge of the game. This guy, he already has it. So that makes it a lot easier on the coaching staff. Here's the big problem, though. He's 170 pounds. Sorry. It's just like, I weigh more than he does. I know that whenever you see me standing up, most people will tell you that I'm not the thinnest guy around, but I'm still I'm still like 5'11", and this dude, and I'm like 210-ish. This dude is 170 pounds, playing cornerback. That should first off get me to ask, what am I doing? But second off, it's a little bit concerning. Now, here's the thing, right? Do I think this coaching staff could get this dude on some McDonald's and just force feed it down his mouth until he gets to like 210, 220. Yes, they could very easily do that. I I I would rather have somebody that is coming into the NFL with decent weight than having to build up said weight. Okay, like T'Vondre Sweat, again, wouldn't trade that pick for the world. He's ended up being absolutely awesome, but it was a concern at first of if he was going to keep his shape and in control. So something to think about. Again, Kobe Bryant, fine pick. Fifth round, he's a fourth round pick, or he's a fifth round pick, so don't really have that much to say there, which is something that you cannot say about the next person that I have drafting. This is the bias pick. This is the one that, I just wanted to make a personal Jeopardy about it. So with the second fifth round pick that the Tennessee Titans have, they will select Dylan Sampson, running back out of Tennessee. Again, this one is mostly biased, but there's still a part of me that is just so curious about, like, why is he running back? Like, why is he barely even inside the top 10 of running backs? He carried this Vols offense through most of the year. Like, take that from me, who watched every single game, every single Saturday, did not miss a beat, did not miss a minute, and just consistently watched it as much as I possibly can. He's the reason that we were probably in the playoffs, and that ended up being revealed whenever we ended up playing against Ohio State. Now, obviously, Ohio State went on to win a national championship, but they beat us, like, really bad. So, like, just something to think about. Here's the thing. Okay, Dylan Sampson, he's very gritty, okay? Like, this dude will fight for every yard, which sometimes gets him into trouble, but we'll get back to that. Just, he's a very strong stand-up dude that, you would want as your running back to just absolutely plow through anybody that he can and just fight for every single inch. Well, excuse me. And that is probably one of his best qualities, not even as a player, but as a person. Like, your grit on the field should tell you a lot about your grit off the field. But, man. Anywho, he has a great burst of speed whenever he hits the hole that the line gives him. Whenever he has a hole, he'll burst right through it and get a big amount of yardage. That is probably one of his strongest qualities. Or that is probably his strongest quality, at least in my opinion, whenever it comes to sheer athleticism. And, I feel like that Jalen Wright also had that burst of speed. Now, obviously, Dylan Sampson probably not as fast as Jalen Wright, but he still is a pretty fast guy. So you got to keep that in mind. And he's probably more powerful than Jalen Hyatt is. I think that he's probably going to end up being better than Jalen Wright. Sorry. I just realized the mistake that I made. Anywho, so again, Jalen Wright, absolute Dylan Sampson, absolute beast. I'm tired. Can you tell? Jalen Wright, amazing. Love that guy. Man, Dylan Sampson, really great, amazing guy. Love him. Probably going to end up being one of the better people out of this class. But there is obviously one big problem with him in that he can't stop fumbling the ball. Now, obviously, I think they can clean that up pretty easily, but it still is something that's very concerning. If you watched any Tennessee football this year, you saw this dude was a fumbling machine. Even with all the great stuff that he did, he always just had like one fumble. It would be the most insignificant fumble too, but it would always just come up and it would just be kind of like an annoying fly, Like, he did it against Vandy, he did it against Alabama, and he did it against Kentucky as well. Again, they didn't end up being relevant in the grand scheme of the game, in those games at least, but they did end up not doing too much favors for us. So, just something to consider. But again, Dylan Sampson, great running back. Okay, I'm going to speed through these last two picks because I'm really going overtime with this episode. Round 6, I don't even know how to pronounce this name, but I'll go for it. Oronde Gadsden II, tight end out of Syracuse. Very versatile. Again, 6th round, you're looking for depth pieces, right? I'm looking for a Chig backup right here. Somebody that plays like Chig, but won't jump Chig on the depth chart. So that is exactly what Oronde Gadsden II brings. I just like saying his name. He's very versatile, and he's awesome with Yak. I mean, does that not just sound like Chig just right out the gate? That is literally just what Chig does. He's amazing at Yak, and he's pretty versatile. So again, take him and put him at a lot of places on the field, and he will be pretty successful. And honestly, I really like that. Now, obviously, not really the biggest dude, and his blocking is a little suspect. But again, we're not looking for that from the backup to Chig, and Chig isn't even the best blocker either. You're looking just for stuff that resembles Chig. So Oronde Gadsden II, tight end out of Syracuse, good pick for this team, at least in my opinion. Okay, 7th round. You're gonna call this bias. I do not care because I think that this would be a right pick to make. Cooper Mays, inside offensive lineman from Tennessee. He's got a very high IQ. He has coordinated footwork, but his medical stuff is questionable. This guy was an absolute anchor on Tennessee's offensive line. Probably the reason that it was so stable through all these years. Like, now, don't get me wrong. I do not like the production that the Tennessee O-line led up this year, but you've got to consider this. This O-line was not really that great. John Campbell is meh. Spraggins still remained pretty solid, which you could also credit to Cooper Mays. I can't even remember who our left guard was. And Lance Hurd. That dude's already been memed into oblivion by Vols fans. He was fine. Like, he wasn't like anything special, but he was fine. It was his first year starting, so I think he'll pick it up. But anyway, we're not talking about the Vols. That's for the Vols rundown. This is the Titans rundown. So Cooper Mays was absolutely instrumental in that Vols O-line staying consistently good. So that is why I think that he should be a Titan in the 7th round. If anything, just to be a backup center or a center that will play while Lloyd Cushenberry is out. If anything, that. So anyway, that's today's episode. I have Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok all under the Titans Rundown. If you want to go check that out, I also have the Vols Rundown. If y'all want to go check that out as well. I didn't post this week, but I should be back on it next week. So, yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it all for me. This has been a rundown of your Tennessee Titans 2025 draft class. I love y'all, and tighten up.